I choose Ben because he let me lecture him about Social Security.
And even right there, you're saying, well, he let me talk a lot so I can burn more clock. You have 20 people to choose from. And you're a professional. Instead of choosing the one who gave you the hardest discussion, you're articulating that you're going to take the easy route, just like a Democrat. I mean, I personally think he did pretty well, but
my claim is that abortion is immoral and should not be legal.
Yeah, I disagree because
they told me to.
Largely because I think the primary rights that we have under a society should belong to the person.
Unless it's the COVID jab, right?
And I don't believe a fetus is a person.
Okay. Okay. So
This is what I mean. A fetus is not a person? In 2025, you're saying a fetus is not a person? That's wild. Like, yeah, some fucking random girl at a pride parade, sure. But as Funkmaster brought up, you're supposed to be a thought leader. Unless the person isn't born yet. Exactly.
It's very interesting. You don't believe the fetus is a person. When do you think that it gains personhood, in your opinion? Would you agree it's a human life, at least?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, yes, I think largely.
So explain to me, what is a human life that is not a person? If the only thing you can say is a fetus, then that's tautological. It's only not a person because it works for my argument. And there's no other instance in the world, in the universe, where something is human, but it's not a person, except for when I want to kill it. Good luck with that one, bro.
I think that claim is largely like, it's not relevant to the way that I think about it. I think about it in terms of personhood. I mean, I think life exists all around us. And
not human. Well, I mean, human life, but not like there's not human life in a tree. Correct?
Right. Correct.
So it's human life.
It's human life,
but it's not a person.
It's not a person.
At which point does it gain personhood? And gain the value of being a human?
Well, I think it becomes a person when it's born.
Why? So 5 seconds.
Come on, bro. Just stick with why. By talking more after that. I mean, why? Because X, Y, da, 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 da. Then you're giving him something else to latch onto, to talk about. Just say, why? Okay, fair. I am understanding your position is that a human life becomes a person at the point of birth. Why? Now, when you're talking about, why is this? And I'm talking about, you're giving him, I don't know if he's going to be able to use it, but you're giving him more fodder.
Human.
Well, I think it becomes a person when it's born.
Why? So 5 seconds prior, it's not born yet, not person. 5 seconds after exits the birth canal, person. Is there a magical quality to the birth canal? What is that?
The person becomes separate from the host that has been.
That's not even true. Have you heard of an umbilical cord? That comes with the baby. I mean, again, I'm not a father, so I never seen it up close. But I'm pretty sure when that baby comes out the birth canal, it is still connected to the mother. Am I wrong?
Quality to the birth canal? What is that?
The person becomes separate from the host that has been that it's been growing inside.
Okay, so would you assign that to other human beings that are attached to things? Like, for instance, if I'm attached to a machine, am I a machine now? Am I part of that machine, or am I still a human life? I just need support in order to stay alive.
If you've never,
these are the questions that should be asked. And this is something I feel like people are maybe not comfortable with, or maybe it's not well understood that about drilling down. But this is what you need to do. You take what he's saying and play it out, because you know that he's wrong, or at the very least, you know that you can argue against it. And so this would have been the perfect thing to say. But, now we're nitpicking.
Machine, or am I?
I mean, this is a pretty easy argument for Sam to lose.
Still a human life. I just need support in order to stay alive.
if you've never been born and you're growing in, let's say, a test tube, for instance, then yes, I would argue you're not a person yet.
Okay, so then, but
Shout out to Giggling Spy over on Rumble. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Said, nope. Apparently, the doctor gives us personhood by cutting the cord. But even if that were true, that's not what Sam said. He said when you're disconnected, and then he said birth. Not the same thing. Welcome to the party, Giggling Spy. Context that maybe just whatever part is outside the vagina is human. So one can both be a fetus and a human at the same time. You see how ridiculous this is when you play it out? The head is human. Or excuse me, the head is a person, but his butt, it's not a person butt yet. It's not a human penis yet. If only an arm is poking out, then the arm is a person, but the baby isn't.
Come on, man.
This is his real, honest, genuine opinion and position. Matthew King getting it in. The Giggling Spy said Schrodinger's person. Oh, man. You guys. Schrodinger's person. You only find out once it's out of the vagina. Brilliant.
A test tube, for instance, then yes, I would argue you're not a person yet.
okay, so then, but it's not really the disconnected part. It's the
No.
being born part.
Good job. See, asking, even though he, I was nitpicking on how much he put in that question, he's nailing down on the points that Sam is saying. So he specifically said that it's the separation. And so then you're talking about a test tube baby that is not, or rather is separated from the mother, yet that's not a person either. So what is your metric for what is a person is not a person?
You're growing in, let's say, a test tube, for instance, then yes, I would argue you're not a person yet.
Okay, so then,
Hey, a shout out to Goldie Toe. I'm gonna go with Little Toes. I'm sorry, but unless you're actually a different person with the same exact picture, that's how I know you. That's what it is. Welcome to the party. Hey, gotcha.
but it's not really the disconnected part. It's the
No.
being born part.
Well, being born means being disconnected from your mother.
Not in a test tube, as you just brought up.
Okay, so you're specifically aligning having the quality of being birthed as what makes someone a person.
Person within the context of our society and civilization.
So just in our society, you wouldn't say that objectively that's a person. You would say that we just decide that it's a person because it's birth.
Yeah, rights we give to persons. Yeah.
Okay, so
So the whole thing about who are you to decide what books can be read, yet you're in the position of deciding what is and is not a person human. Okay, dude.
I guess that's an interesting kind of definition of what human life and specifically person.
Well, no,
is.
I don't.
That you're
I'm
just-
conceding that it's human life, but that you're not a person until you're born, and you do not have
Based on what? You're just saying that. You have to give a reason as to why that is the case.
the same rights that we would give. Look,
Why?
Well, I
we,
need
we have rights about cruelty to animals, for instance, right? But they're not persons within the
Well,
context
yeah,
of
I'm
our
not saying
society.
that they are,
Nobody's-
but
yeah.
specifically, it seems like you're just kind of saying, oh, it's a person when it's born, but you're not actually providing any consistent reason for that. You're just saying it just is a person.
I'm saying that
Uh-huh.
on some level, there's a certain amount of arbitrariness as to when we give rights. One could say,
Is there, though? In this situation, that's what you're arguing for, but you haven't given a reason for that arbitrariness.
do you say it's at conception?
Sure.
Yeah, because, science and stuff.
Yeah.
So IVF, in other words, would have to be illegal under your principle because
Nope. Because just because you're taking an embryo that is fertilized, because of the fact that you're not directly going to end it, and you're this is part of the process of having a fully born child. Yeah, I mean, technically, it is not ideal that embryos get destroyed, but it's not the same thing, and we want people to have children. Shout out to Adam Lowe. Welcome to the party. Very good to see you. We got Sam Seder trying to argue against abortion is immoral and should not be legal. And he's not doing very well. There we go. Just, being a feminist doesn't get you females, at least in the way you want them. I mean, I can't say from experience, but I definitely believe it.
Sure. Yeah.
So IVF, in other words, would have to be illegal under your principle, because
I mean, I'm not sure that I would agree with IVF in that case. It really depends on the particulars in that case. But I believe.
Well, what do you mean the particulars?
Well, so for instance, at conception, you would still be a human life. That doesn't necessarily mean that the fertilized egg attaches
So
to
is
the
it
uterine wall.
is it human life for you, or what?
It's human life. Yeah.
Okay, so human life should be protected.
Yes.
Okay, so IVF.
Yeah, I would say that.
So IVF should be illegal under your rubric.
No.
So again, the question, there's clearly a misunderstanding that Sam is very aware of. Homeboy here should be like, why are you saying that it should be illegal? Maybe he doesn't fully understand the nuances of the fact that when you do IVF, you implant the sperm in the egg and so on and so forth, and there are embryos that are human DNA. Unique DNA that will get destroyed. Shout out to Andrew Schultz. If you've seen his new comedy special, you'll know. And fair warning without spoilers. If you have a heart, be prepared to cry. Be prepared to cry when you watch Andrew Schultz's new special. I'm just putting it out there. Matthew said a fertilized egg is not the same as an embryo. True. But does a fertilized egg, a genuine question I do not know, does a fertilized egg that is not yet an embryo have unique DNA? I believe it does, right? Should we, let's get a full, so, let's say, does an embryo that is not used in an IVF treatment doesn't have a unique Yeah, so that's what I thought. So it still has its own unique DNA, in which, in my personal opinion, and many people who are Christians, that makes it a human being, and I agree with that. So, but again, there is a difference. So this is yes, embryos created through in vitro fertilization, but it's not not used. Wait. An embryo that is created through IVF. But not used, still has unique DNA that is distinct from both parents. The embryo was formed when the sperm and egg combine, resulting in a new genetic code. There's a mix of both parental DNA. This means it is genetically unique, just like any naturally conceived embryo or child. Even if the embryo is never implanted or allowed to develop further, from a biological standpoint, it is already a distinct genetic identity from the moment of fertilization. And so I am against abortion, but I don't think that just because it is unique DNA that it is the same thing as going through an abortion procedure. Can you articulate why someone might have this position? Let's outsource a little bit. So someone who's pro-life but does not equate discarding an unused IVF embryo with an abortion might take the following distinctions. 1, biological development versus termination of life. While an embryo has a unique DNA, it has not yet begun the process of implantation in the uterus. Some may argue that life, in a moral or legal sense, begins at implantation rather than at fertilization. And not me. Abortion, on the other hand, involves actively terminating a pregnancy where the embryo or fetus is already developing within the mother's body. Okay, so a different one is intent and direct action, which sounds like it's more up my alley. In an abortion, there's an active procedure to stop an already progressing pregnancy. With unused IVS embryos, there is no direct action to end a life in development. Rather, the embryo is never given the opportunity to implant and grow. Some people see this as a morally significant difference. That's me. That's me. Number 3, natural laws versus intervention. Many fertilized eggs fail to implant naturally, even in unassisted conception. If one believes that an embryo outside the womb is not yet in the process of developing as a person, then letting it remain unused might not carry the same moral weight as an abortion. We got moral versus practical concerns. Some pro-life advocates focus on protecting life within the womb because it has a direct relationship to the mother and a clear biological trajectory. Unused IVF embryos, by contrast, exist outside the body, and their status as, quote, potential life rather than developing life makes them a gray area for some people. And again, genuinely agree with that. Number 5 out of 5. The role of viability. Many unused embryos may never develop into a baby due to genetic defects or other issues. Some argue that since not every embryo will successfully develop, discarding unused embryos does not carry the same moral weight as ending a viable pregnancy. This position allows someone to remain committed to the pro-life view while recognizing that there's moral and biological nuances when it comes to IVF embryos versus abortion. I said shit. Me too. Context in the future. Once you pass from the machine test tubes to open air, you're now a person. Makes sense. Cheddar Steve said, "You're not a penis until you can get a boner." What? Goes on to say, "I was poking that shit in, not out." Battle of the retards. What are you talking about, pal? What are you talking about? Wilto said, even smelly feminists in college are still getting free ass, but it's harder to avoid it in today's colleges. Sad days we live in. Can't argue with that. Matthew Yang said, I consider it just an egg until it's implanted in the mother. Then it's an embryo or fetus. But it is an embryo. You could say then it's a fetus, and you could say that an embryo that's not implanted is not a fetus. You can take that position. But you can't say the embryo is not an embryo until it meets the requirements that you like. It is an embryo. Biologically, scientifically, that is what that word means. It is a fertilized egg that potentially could be grown. And so this is a big reason why Sam is, because you remember, guys, not religious, almost anti-religious, and more liberal than a lot of you, not by much, but enough. And so these are the things that we need to be able to lay out. We need to lay out the argument, and words matter. And so, in fact, a fertilized egg is the same as an embryo, but an embryo is not necessarily a fetus, according to some people. And I would disagree with that. I think so and that's a fair opinion. I personally disagree. I think once that egg is fertilized, once unique DNA is created, that is a human person fetus. That being said, if in the attempt to create human life, there's some casualties, that is not the same thing. Even though it's bad, it's not the same thing as actively going and killing it. We're talking about, if we're at war and we blow up, a military opponent's fucking house, and there's some collateral damage. That's still bad that people died. It's not the same thing as going to a mall and it's not the same thing. If you want to reduce it to, well, people died, then okay, you can do that. But they're not the same thing. They're just not. And I think that's what Sam's hanging on. So let's see if I forget his name. Did they put his name here? They did not. I don't remember his name, but let's see if he can handle that.
Human life should be protected.
Yes.
Okay, so IVF.
Yeah, I would say that
So IVF should be illegal under your rubric.
no.
And so for what he should be saying is no, at best, it's a necessary evil.
No. So they're human lives, correct?
The IVF is when the egg and the sperm
Today, Junior.
in that and then they're supplanted.
Yes.
Is it when is it human life?
As soon as it has unique human DNA.
And that's the embryo. There are unique strains of human DNA that are snuffed out in the process of IVF on the regular. That has to be something that you contend with. You need to understand either I'm okay with that, or you know what? I'm not okay with that, and I'm also against IVF. Those are the two options when it comes to this.
That's a human life.
Okay, so
it's a new human, correct?
now in the IVF process, there's stuff that gets thrown out. Like,
Yes.
you would consider that.
Yeah,
murder.
I'm not even defending IVF or going against it. I'm specifically saying abortion. That was my claim, right?
There you go. There you go. Bring it back and drive the conversation, because Sam's actually making some headway and catching him on a little bit of a, I don't know, a soft spot. Like not where he's greatest, but good job. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about abortion.
And I'm not going to argue IVF.
But isn't
I'm saying-
that abortion under your principle?
I would say if you get rid of human life after conception, I don't think that's moral. I'm not going to argue the IVF particulars because that's not what my claim was, right?
There you go. Yeah, like I said, I get frustrated when they link IVF with abortion. They are polar opposites. One is actively creating life. The other is termination of life. I mean, that is the intent, but we can't dispel the true fact that in many IVF situations, there are human embryos that are unique DNA that are snuffed out. That happens. So we need to reckon with that. If that's not something you can get past, then maybe you need to, not you specifically, the general, if you can't accept that, then maybe you're in the position where you need to rethink if you're okay with IVF. And if you are okay with that, then you can make that distinction. Or you could even go, you know what? I actually don't necessarily have a problem with abortion at this early level. Either way, we have to contend with the facts as they are.
When we're talking about laws, right? Because you want to outlaw abortion.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. When we're talking about laws, it's not just morality when we form public policy around and create laws.
Not just, but it should be moral, correct?
Well, I mean,
Correct.
I think like your
should have been
definition of what constitutes moral and mine are different.
Wait, you couldn't give a hard yes on our laws should be moral?
Immoral, correct?
Well, I mean, I think like,
Well, I mean, if it works for me, then morality, I guess. But no, we don't need to have morality. We just need to have things that I want.
your
should have been
definition of what constitutes moral and mine are different. For instance, I would prefer in a perfect world not to have abortion on demand until, up until birth, right?
Sure.
In a perfect world. However, we know in practice that when you start to restrict things like,
I remember this part, so I'm giving you fair warning that I know exactly what's coming, and so I'm not, smart and just taking this off the top of my head. But I remember.
say, only in the threat of life to the woman, let's say. That's the only way we're going to allow abortions, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you start to have these exceptions, they're in practice, they don't work, because when your life is in jeopardy and you come into a hospital, the doctor doesn't see a bulb that shows up above you and say like, your life is in jeopardy.
Oh, so you don't trust the experts? I thought we were supposed to trust the experts. When it comes to the transes, whatever the doctor says goes, right? But we can't trust doctors. They're just people, right? No principles, just positions. No principles, just positions. In this case, his position is we can't trust a doctor. When it comes to the trans, well, the doctor said it's from a doctor. I don't know how people live like this.
Into a hospital, the doctor doesn't see a bulb that shows up above you and say like, your life is in jeopardy. It's always a subjective assessment. And what is life?
And one that you're totally fine with when it comes to transing, but not abortion. Inconsistency. I said, I don't want them fertilizing 100 good eggs just to implant one. Yeah, typically it's more like 5 to 7 for one, somewhere around there, maybe up to 10. I'm kind of pulling this out of my ass, but from what I understand, and again, I did just watch fucking Schultz's thing, and they had IVF, so I'm using those numbers as well. Fact check me on that, but it's definitely not near 100 because women only produce 1 egg a month. And so the shots that they get are meant to increase that. And so, you might get 20 eggs in a month with all the hormones and shit. And then of them, there's, only so many that are viable. And then of them, only one is the best one. And the rest gets snuffed.
Your life is in jeopardy. It's always a subjective assessment. And what does life in jeopardy? Hold on. What does life in jeopardy mean? Does it mean a 30% chance of death? Does it mean a 50%, a 70%, or 20%?
I don't know. Let's leave it up to the experts.
That's why we now have women who are dying because doctors are afraid to perform abortions on them. That's true.
Are you
So the kids that are dying because they hate themselves because they're trans, they don't matter.
Just because some doctors misread plain text doesn't mean that that it's when you all of a sudden that life is less valuable or more valuable.
Exactly. It means that
we should trust experts to an extent. We should trust the experts, but to an extent.
You are subjecting the woman to more risk, and it's impossible. These exceptions are they're canards.
You're doing the same thing to children, which you argued for earlier.
No, Christian.
When you oppose a law, it is not just about morality, it's in practice.
Sure,
in practice,
I understand that.
You cannot do this without sacrificing women's lives because
you cannot do any trans stuff that you're advocating for without sacrificing children's lives. So let's do a poll. Let's do a fucking twisted ass poll. Which is more important? The life of a woman or the life of a child? Clearly, we already know, based on his own words, what Sam thinks, that women are more important than children.
Understand that.
You cannot do this without sacrificing women's lives because
what about
of your
the unborn
morality.
Children, though? Because let's go.
I said, so loopholes make some haziness. We should remove all limits, even at 9 months when the baby can live on its own. This is the logic that they use.
Back to your
unborn children.
So let's say you have a 9-month.
Yes, they are.
The mother has more rights, in my mind, than the unborn child.
Yeah, that's
told you.
That's a claim that you can make. But so a 9.
Nobody, all you scaredy little bitches, hit the fucking poll, you little pansy.
Month birthed child, or just 9 month and just now born. It's a newborn baby. A 5-month could be emergency C-section and could be birthed, right? Let's say they don't do that. What's the difference between the arbitrary choice of taking that child out of the womb at 6 months or 5 months?
Why don't we take all children out at 5 months?
What I'm saying is that the personhood, just because of birth, runs into a problem where it starts to say,
all right, guys,
well,
I hate to do it, but I got to do it.
Bro, that fucking, I heard the beeping and I was like, what the fuck is happening?
As a birth,